12A.
12A would be to affirm the regular and committee of the whole meeting dates for 2021, 2022.
Correct. So attached is a copy of the 2021, 2022 dates. The previous board, in board book,
It's in,
Oh, in board
Board
book.
book.
Can you tell me what page again?
261.
Thank you.
So the outgoing board had approved a calendar through June 30th, the fiscal year. So that means our next meeting would be May 25th and then the second Tuesday of June. So the dates that are presented in front of you tonight continue the pattern of a non-school months having one meeting on the second Tuesday and then having a committee of the whole meeting in the months of September, October, January, February. Historically, we have not done March due to spring break, but the way the second and the fourth weeks align this year, there is an opportunity to do a committee of whole in the March, 2 meetings in April, 2 meetings in May, and then back to 1 meeting in
Huh.
June.
This time 19 meetings, huh? Usually it's 18. Interesting how that worked out.
so have the new members had a chance to look at this in board book?
Yes.
So if everyone is comfortable, do we want to discuss the meeting dates? Do you have any
So
questions?
I think we need to make the resolution, and then you can make some tweaks, right? Because then we need to make the resolution about keeping the meeting, and then enter into discussion if you want to make some tweaks.
Sure.
Okay.
Who would like to make the resolution?
Sure.
Thanks.
Resolved that the Board of Education, Township High School, District 208, Cook County, Illinois, hereby affirms the regular and committee of the whole meeting dates for the 2021-2022 school board calendar as presented in the May 4th, 2021 board agenda packet.
I'll second that.
And now there's discussion?
Yeah. And so one of the things you're asking, is anybody opposed to a second, an additional meeting? I'm not. I don't know if anybody else is opposed to it. It'd be up to you.
I think the 7 p.m. start date with the meeting schedule as presented. Any discussion on that point?
Yes, so I'd like to throw out, because we have sometimes our administration come, the 6:30 closed session, especially like for personnel issues, seems to be a nice fit. And that way, maybe some of our administration people might be able to then leave after the board meeting and not be here as long, and it might be a little more efficient meeting, just something to think about. Then we can go into closed session afterwards, but we might be able to take care of some of the, like personnel business right off the bat first.
Sure, and we've used that on kind of an ad hoc basis,
Yeah.
right? So I think I'm perfectly open to continuing that way. If anyone has any objections, I think it would be on a case-by-case basis. Are you suggesting always starting at 6:30?
I'm suggesting always starting at 6:30. I think District 95 did that for a while, and they took care of issues where staff members had to stay and kind of present, because, 6:30, and that way they can leave once they're done with the official part of the board meeting and not have to stay here till 10, 10:30, or 11. So in that way, it just kind of helps some people that don't have to be on deck that long. Plus, it will shorten our closed session in some ways after the meeting. Some of our meetings might not, some of our discussion in closed session after a long meeting might not be as robust because, we're spent. So by kind of splitting it, you can take care of some of the pertinent things, right away. Some of the business, can kind of take care of that. And then you can come back after the meeting if you need to do more.
My only concern, this is me speaking personally, I'm not sure if anyone else has any downtown considerations.
Sure.
Coming from downtown for a 6:30 start time is more challenging. So 7 p.m. works better for my schedule, but I can't kind of look around. Tom, what are your thoughts?
Yeah, it was not an issue for the last year, but hopefully, going back, I think that speaks for 7 p.m.
I am not as familiar with all of the ins and outs and workings in closed session with regard to times, but I would prefer to stay with if you're calling it ad hoc, just for the simple fact that, again, this is personally, 7 o'clock becomes easier for me with some other duties that I have. So, but I'm not opposed to the idea that on certain occasions, special occasions, that helps other schedules, trying to make that work.
Lorena, Bill?
My only concern would be if you chop it, like, how efficient would it really be? Like, you're kind of on a time crunch, so then at 7 o'clock, you have to stop, and what if there's a rich discussion of whatever's going on? Then you have to come tend to this regular meeting, and then you have to go back to closed session. That would be my concern, is how efficient would a 30-minute closed session be?
Okay. Bill, thoughts?
Yeah, I'm fine with either 6:30 or 7.
I mean, I would like to keep it as the 7 o'clock, but I do think when there are, like today, for instance, there were as a finite number of items. I think 6:30 worked out really well. But that's not always the case, obviously, so.
Well, possibly we could think about that whenever
Mhm.
we have issues where our administration needs to stay for that, but it's not necessary for them to then stay past the meeting. And that way, we're not keeping
And
them
that's
here
fair,
until
yeah.
3 hours, because they're coming back early.
So like an
than-
expulsion or
Yeah,
even like tonight, if there's just a few teacher, and then it'd be
Yeah.
helpful to have the assistant principal
Right.
with Dr.
Yeah,
Freitas
no, I think
or
that makes
something, right?
sense. Yep.
Is that something that would work out on a planned ahead basis as opposed to trying to make it every, would it be on
Yeah.
a committee of the whole and regular board meetings, or for?
We only we try to avoid having voting items on a committee of the whole night unless there's a personnel matter or a student discipline matter or something that is like a contractual matter, a vendor's contract needs to be approved, then we call it a special committee of the whole meeting. But we try to avoid keeping those very long. So I think it could be ad hoc. The other thing the board can consider, you can do the discussion at 7 to 7:30 and start the meeting at 7:30 if that's something you want to think about.
that's true. We used to
You don't have to
start
do
the
it at
meetings at
6:30.
7:30.
Mhm.
And I have been a part of, when I was a principal in U46, their closed session would start before. If it was done at 7:15, they would start the public meeting at 7:15.
Right, they just start when they're ready.
If it went to 7:45,
You have
they
to-
would start to 7:45, and they had.
I always think
quiz.
that's harder for people watching at home or public comment. I think
That
it's a little
is true.
challenging, but.
Sure.
Yeah.
But if you wanted to do closed session, maybe dedicated to like the personnel packet always at the front end, you could go 7 to 7:30 and then do the meeting at 7:30. That's something. I think the new president and I can discuss and see what that looks like on an agenda, maybe bring back for more discussion.
Or maybe look at it for the holistic schedule, right? I
Yeah.
think to Laura's point, having it known, I think having a known calendar is helpful. But I think what I'm hearing is that we keep it as is for now, and then we amend moving forward as needed. So I think we have a motion and a second. We need a roll call on this one.
Yes.
Ms. Towner?
Yes.
Mr. Van Horst?
Yes.
Mr. Durkin?
Yes.
Ms. Gasko?
Yes.
Ms. Ruska?
Yes.
Mr. Jacobs?
Yes.
And Ms. Salas?
Yes.